Hi everyone, this is Jim Tolles. I'm a spiritual teacher. I blog regularly at spiritualawakeningprocess.com. And of course I do videos here on my Jim Tolles YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about confusing neediness with necessary spiritual help. Before I get into this too far, I just want to remind you that I have some more links and other resources to look at down below this video. If you're on a phone, I believe there's a little triangle icon that you click and that shows you more stuff below the video. It's always different on every device, right? It's so confusing now. Anyway, let's talk about neediness versus actually needing spiritual help. It's absolutely true that you don't need anyone to help you realize spiritual freedom, because spiritual freedom is here now. We are all inherently part of oneness. So it is always possible for someone to realize it on their own without any sort of help. This is true. It's also completely possible to have no idea how to make chocolate chip cookies, to have no idea of a recipe, and to just keep combining stuff and eventually you get a cookie. But isn't it a lot easier if somebody shows up in your life with a recipe? This is one way to think of necessary spiritual help. It's a way to potentially skip the missteps that might come with mixing too much flour and having no chocolate chips, not even knowing what a chocolate chip looks like, even though you want to make a chocolate chip cookie because you've never really seen a chocolate chip cookie. You've heard stories of chocolate chip cookies. They sound really good. You want to make one. And then confusing salt with sugar, which is a big mistake. And so that's a very salty cookie. And then you don't know how long to cook it. This is the metaphor. There's lots of things that we could figure out on our own without help, but it's so much easier at times to go find somebody who knows a little bit more about anything that we need in our lives. If you want to start a garden, go to a garden club. Gardening is not a new thing. Plenty of people know how to garden and can give you all sorts of useful advice. The same goes with spiritual teaching. That you come to a spiritual teacher not because you need us to save you or because you're hoping for something magical to happen through us, but because you legitimately would like a little extra help. And this video today is particularly for those of you who get trapped in the illusion of independence, who get trapped in this cultural push towards hyper-individuality, where we're just like, I have to do everything by myself. But if we use a little logic, you start to realize we don't really do much of anything by ourselves. We're part of these big communities that are supporting us in all sorts of different ways. You can live on your own, but you don't really live on your own because you didn't build your house. You don't get the energy that allows your heater to go on or to turn on your lights. You didn't make the internet. And if you're watching this now, somebody made the internet and all the different technical things that had to go into that so you could hear me talk. So you're not listening to this video individually. There's a whole community is behind this that makes it seem like, oh, all I do is I click on the thing and I start to listen. Now, neediness is something else entirely because there's a giving up of personal power, an expectation that somebody else can fix you, heal you, elevate you, or whatever it is. A confusion that you can't do something on your own, but the spiritual path, the path towards spiritual freedom, is an uncovery process. That's why I said in the beginning, you don't need anybody for this, but it's occasionally helpful to have someone help you in this sort of unbecoming. It's helpful to have someone point out, oh, you're attached to this thing. You're putting energy into this idea about yourself. You can let that go. And that's deeply empowering. But if somebody's caught up in a sense of neediness, they also often tend to not want to do the work. We have a lot of ideas in our culture, right? And this is this interesting interplay between the hyper-individual and the needy person, because one of the ways those things play out is into the sort of victim-savior roles. And those get projected into this sort of spiritual work, where the spiritual teacher is like some sort of savior. It's like, I'm not going to save anything. I can only point you towards the truth. So the person stuck in the neediness often misses the fact that this is an empowering thing, that you can grow stronger in yourself with a little bit of the right help. And the same goes for the person who's hyper-individual. It's like, oh, I'm going to do it all myself. And it's like, I don't need anyone. And ultimately, there is no teacher or teaching. And it's like, they try to find ways to get around not being vulnerable. And trying to hide vulnerability is a form of separation. If we're all one, we're open to everything. There is no separation. There's no way to be more. And I think the hyper-individual gets stuck in that Western idea of more is better. Somehow we're going to be more of something. But this really, as I've said in other videos, this is a subtractive process. We're subtracting illusions, subtracting our attachments. And occasionally, it's useful to have a little help along the way. And that help allows you to better do your inner work and to let go and to surrender. I hope these words have been helpful today. Feel free to check out the other resources beneath this video. And have a beautiful rest of your morning, day, or night.